Hello everyone, welcome back to the Tiny Home Tour podcast. Today we have Wendy here and her lovely tiny home. We're going to talk about her early life, moving to Seattle, living in how much square footage was your old house?
My home was 2,200 and my mom's, the other half of the duplex was 2,700.
My good, so dang near 5,000 square feet of roaming around, and now you're in 399. Wow, that's so insane.
Yes.
So, before we get to that juicy part, take me all the way back.
Okay.
To where were you born? What was your growing up like? I personally want to know more about that. I didn't get to ask you that the other day during our tour.
Well, I was born in Granby, Quebec, so in Canada. And Granby's the eastern townships, so east of Montreal. And it has the distinction of being home to the Granby Zoo. So I had the cool experience as a little kid in summer, windows would be open, I'd fall asleep hearing the lions roaring.
Oh my God, what? You would hear the lions roar while you're going to bed? What a treat.
Yes.
What would they do in the wintertime? Like, that's gotta get cold.
Well, the windows were closed. I didn't hear them. They were in their dens.
I was gonna say, probably in the winter, like, y'all gotta go inside.
Right.
Man, so what was like just normal like kid activities out there? Like,
kid activities. So I loved animals. So that was always just a big part of life. And interestingly, my oldest daughter became a veterinarian.
oh yeah, right.
So it just kind of, it's passed down through the family, a lot of animal lovers. And we had the good fortune to have a lake home, so spent a lot of time on the water.
Heck yeah.
Just this little cottage that my dad and grandfather built.
Really?
And just, cold water only, just wonderfully basic getaway. So a lot of fun memories there.
That's neat.
Weekends. It was just a summer place. So,
Was that place tiny?
very tiny.
Really?
Very tiny.
So you think maybe subconsciously, like, this may have been a thing?
That's a great point, because it honestly was just my favorite place, was to go to the cottage and, be at the lake.
Yeah, so like outside in a small space kind of just felt safe.
Right.
Right. I feel the same way.
Right, exactly. And just, quick and easy to clean and take care of. And
Fascinating. So when did you leave the Arctic cold winters?
I left the Arctic cold winters after a couple years in Montreal. So went from Granby to Montreal and then moved from there. And I actually went down to Florida.
Oh my God.
So talk about a contrast. So headed down to Florida when I was in 6th grade.
What was that like?
Culture shock.
Oh, I bet.
To be in the deep south.
Totally forgot
and
about that.
That warm, etc., that humid. I mean, certainly I'd been there visiting. I went and lived with my grandparents for a while. So I was with them for a time period, and then moved up to Atlanta and rejoined my mother and her boyfriend there.
Interesting.
So, and they had purchased a restaurant, so that was a big adventure to now be, owners of that. And so we were there for a couple of years, and then we moved up to upstate New York.
Wow, getting a little missing home a little bit.
Right. So that took me, literally up and down the whole eastern seaboard, basically.
What did that feel like?
Well, I noticed the differences in the school systems from state to state.
Whoa.
was pretty wild.
That's deep.
So that was interesting. Because moving from Canada, my perception of it, I had nothing to compare it to until I moved to Florida and thought, oh wow, this is like too easy. I did this 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And kind of the same in Atlanta, and then in New York, it was like, okay, this is more, kind of more the pace I was looking for. Interestingly, when my mom enrolled me in the school in New York State, they said, oh, coming from Atlanta to Florida, oh, we need to move her back a grade. And her response was, based on what?
Really?
You're going to keep her with the same grade and same age. You have no reason to just do that on a supposition of education not being at the same level.
Do you think they were taking like an weighted average of Florida teachings to like, oh, we're better than that kind of thing? And
it's just not even across the states, and it's not even between
That's
between
not good.
Canada and the U.S. And in Canada, you're getting it all in bilingual also.
Really?
So, which is just cool. I mean,
Yeah,
I
true. French
just,
Canadian.
right. So I'm just a fan. I think it's wonderful when people can be exposed to other cultures and other languages.
That's where I think
So
some growth happens. Some good perspective shifts happen.
exactly.
And I'm sure like you've probably been in cities too, and you're just surrounded by everything. Everyone, and you eventually realize, everyone's cool.
Right,
Everyone's cool.
right.
Everyone's just trying to do their thing.
Right.
We happen to kind of bump heads, but we gotta get past that sometimes.
Right, exactly. So then I stayed in upstate New York. We were in Albany and stayed there through college. So I actually got both my bachelor's and my master's at State University of New York at Albany.
For what?
My MBA's in marketing and my undergrad's in English.
Wow.
So
That's a great choice. Great choice of a degree back then,
I
because
had
marketing
planned
is huge now.
business as my undergrad,
Yeah.
and the School of Business had 400 seats. So you went your first 2 years, and then based on your grades and other things, you got in. I was number 403.
Whoa.
And I thought, oh, come on, 3 people are going to fall out. No one shook out. So then I had to change what my major was for the undergrad, and that's what then incentivized me to go for the master's. And I just grew up enjoying conversations about business because my grandfather was a plant manager, and it was influenced by my uncle, my mother's older brother, and he had gotten his MBA and said, well, Wendy, that might be a really good move for you. And so I just was kind of influenced because I thought these were some of the most fascinating conversations, just hearing. Interesting thing for a little kid to like, but and I had learned to read really early. So it just, business was calling my name, and I just took a very perfect, wonderful detour.
And Atlanta had no idea what they're talking about, clearly. And I think that's a great thing for people to hear too, who are like, what am I going to do with my life? I mean, business ain't going nowhere. I think learning business as early as you can is going to be a skill that you can.
And technology.
Oh my, computer science right now,
Yes,
go
exactly.
learn coding.
Exactly. So I'll date myself now. So this is interesting. So I go off to college, and my big gift I was given to head off to college was a typewriter. And I was so proud of this baby blue Selectric typewriter that had cartridges you put into to correct things. It's like,
God.
oh my goodness. And by the time I graduated from college with my master's in 5 years, because I did the compressed program, you had to have a laptop.
So interesting.
And when I had started in college, it was still on punch cards. So you would do things like, we did the Harvard business simulation game, and it was on punch cards. And then they would take everyone's punch cards and then compare all the different teams. And it's like, most people don't even know what a punch card is. So the technology's just, changed so much, obviously.
Jeez Louise, I bet.
Yeah, and then when I graduated, I considered very briefly going. I wasn't going to stay in Albany. I wanted to go to a bigger city, and New York felt too big for me. I loved it. I'd been there on trips and had friends there, but you've got to know yourself too.
Yeah.
So I decided to go to Boston. I was really drawn to Boston.
And about how old are you now?
22.
Okay, so you're kind of like fresh out of college then?
Fresh out of college.
Got it.
And deciding where to go to start life, get that first wonderful job.
That's tough.
And so I decided about a year before graduation, I'm going to go to Boston. And we did have some cousins who lived there, and so I thought, okay, there'll be a little bit of family. And I had been there a couple times on trips. And then interestingly, the universe really wanted me to go to Boston. My mother ends up getting transferred there. I'd already made the decision to go to Boston, and she's like, guess what? I'm going to Boston.
Oh my God.
Like, really? So she also relocated from Albany, and that was perfect for me because a little wrinkle came up when I went to start in that first job. And, you're so gung-ho because you're coming out and you're ready to go into the workforce. It was 1984.
Oh my Lord.
And I'm ready to go. And I found out 1 month before graduation that, unbeknownst to me, And I found out right on the same day, my grandfather had been doing all this wonderful family research. And he's like, oh my goodness, our family came over on the Mayflower and actually daughter of the American Revolution. And he's trying to explain all these things to me from an American history perspective. Because I'd been like half educated in Canada and half in the States, literally like, 11 years and 11 years, because I was now 22. And the same day, because of a place I applied to work had defense dollars. So I had to send in, answer questions about my citizenship, and they wanted a copy of my birth certificate. And in all innocence, I said, I don't have a birth certificate, a baptismal certificate from Quebec, because you don't get birth certificates. And they're like, what? What? Canada? What? So I get declared an illegal alien after having lived in the country for 11 years. And I'd been working part-time. I already had my driver's license, I had my social security card. But the big red button got hit of this is actually an illegal alien, which we didn't know. We understood that we'd followed the proper procedure when I, crossed the border as an 11-year-old kid. And we understood that because my mother had dual citizenship and my mom's whole side of the family was American, we understood that I would naturalize at 18. In hindsight, that sounds ridiculous, do a little more research, but that's what we understood.
Yeah.
And everything tracked with, getting the Social Security. The question had never come up.
Interesting.
So I'm now a month from graduation. I can't work. I can't leave the country because I can't get back in. And I'm literally declared an illegal alien. So it's like, well, this is interesting. So I move, very grateful that my mother had moved to Boston because I moved in with her because I couldn't work.
Yeah.
And we're now trying to figure out the Department of Justice system to get my green card.
Whoa.
And to hire an attorney, and this was 1984, to have hired an attorney for that at the time was $500 an hour.
Oh my God.
In 1984.
Oh,
And
don't
I'm
even
not
know what it
working.
is now.
I'm not working. I can't think that high.
Probably $1,200 an hour at this moment.
So we had to work our way through the system ourselves. I had the benefit of my mother was able to be the first petitioner for me. So, but we had to go do all this paperwork that was hard to figure out and just work our way through all that. So that took me until January. So it was just kind of an interesting 8 months of not knowing if I was going to get to stay in the country or not. Because there was a lot of conversation of, you may need to leave. And I'm like, but I've lived here since I was a kid. Where exactly would I be going?
Plot twist. This is.
And all my friends are getting these great jobs. Oh, I got hired by IBM and I got hired by this. And I'm like, and I'm talking with immigration. I get the green card. Yay! And I get my first position as a management consultant with a Big 8 accounting firm. And it was wonderful. So working right in downtown Boston and just all that history, and it really was great. So I was in that position for a couple of years, and then life continues on, and I met my husband when I was just turning 26, and he had moved on out from California.
Oh, wow.
So we married in September of 1989 and had the good fortune to buy our first home. And we were living in Boxford, north of Boston. Wonderful rural town, 2-acre minimum, and you can have 1 horse per acre.
That's pretty cool.
It was just wonderful.
Did you have a horse?
We did not.
Oh.
We did not. But it would be so funny. We'd be driving by just different beautiful homes, all custom and all different. And I would just be like, he's driving, and I'm like quickly counting the horses, and I'm like, oh look, they've got like 7 acres, and we go by the next one, and I'm just counting horses, and he doesn't know I'm counting horses because I'd learned everyone maxed the number of horses to the number of acres.
Hilarious.
And he's like, you've gotten really good at estimating acreage. How do you do that? And I didn't tell him for a couple years. I'm just counting horses.
That's hilarious. Wow.
So we lived there until 1993,
Right.
and we had two years with over 100 inches of snow. So 91 and 92
Whoa.
were super, super snowy. And, you know, we loved the area, and my mother was there, and, you know, lots of friends there, but just were getting the feeling it's time to move. So I mentioned it to him, and he's like, "Oh, wow, I didn't think you'd be willing to move. I'm very interested in moving." Also, he worked in software in Boston at that time. It was Wang. It was like hardware. It was a hardware town back when hardware
Interesting.
was a big deal versus software. Because again, this was early '90s. It's just a different
Yeah.
era. So we get into a nationwide discussion of where we might want to live, and had just, you know, a lot of fun coming up, and did some road trips and checked some places out, and settled on Seattle.
Nice.
So moved out to the Seattle area in 1993, and we wanted to start a family. That was a big part of our move, because we just felt like it was a lot of 60 to 80 to 100-hour weeks in Boston. It's like, can we slow it down a bit on the West Coast
Yeah.
and balance up life, and have a family? And he was excited to get back to the left coast,
Yep.
being from Southern California. He grew
Yeah.
up right by Disney, so Anaheim. So we moved out, and then our first daughter, our oldest daughter Tara, was born in December '95, and our youngest daughter Taylor was born in March '98. So that was other, you know, big, wonderful life events. And we did divorce when they were both starting school full time. So when they were 6 and 8, and that's what led to my mom had retired, and she just really wasn't having as many ties to Boston anymore. She'd always wanted us to come back to Boston, but
Oh, she was still there.
she was still in Boston, but we weren't, because she was working, and, you know, just life was there. Life was in the Northeast, and still was going up to the family cottage up in Quebec, etc. She still owned that at that time. But more and more people had been saying to her, you know, why don't you consider, you know, now that you're retired, why don't you consider moving out where Wendy and John and the kids are? Because I'm the only child and only grandchildren. So when I let her know that we were going to be divorcing, she had already expressed the idea to us. What about us having a duplex? What about us buying or building a family duplex? And that's when John and I were married. So once I was divorced, that really started to make sense. So that is exactly what we did. So she moved on out, and she became a team grandma,
Nice.
which was fantastic, because the kids were in 50-50 residential schedule, and Seattle traffic is horrendous. And we're both working full time, and it's not always easy to do pickups on time or get them to sporting events. So she would just help fill in those gaps. And it was marvelous. We so appreciated it, because they didn't have to go to before school care and after school care, and they were able to do sports for the first time.
That's really cool.
So that was part of the win, you know, of the divorce, was that my mom moved on out and just was able to take that active role in our lives, and she and I got that home built together. And
that blue one they showed me.
yes, exactly,
Nice.
exactly, and then, you know, lived in it and raised the kids for 15 years.
Dang. So what were you doing for work at that point?
What I have done for almost all my career is healthcare business development of one type or another. So I've primarily worked for hospitals and healthcare organizations, also worked for a large ambulatory surgery center in ophthalmology. There I was the marketing director. I also was a physician recruiter. So just different things on the business side in the healthcare industry.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to rewind a tiny bit. What was some other reasons for moving to Seattle besides starting a family? Like, what was that kind of allure to it?
sure. The allure was John missed the West Coast more than I had realized.
Yeah.
So when I brought up the possibility of the change, he really jumped on it. At that time, Seattle was less expensive than Boston, and with wanting to start a family, that kind of made sense. So, kind of looking at budget differently, and just wanting to slow down. We felt like Boston was very, wonderful, but very pedal to the metal, or at least the way we were working and living. So we just, he felt like it would be more laid back and more work-life balance. I didn't know because I'd never been to the West Coast, except for the, visit here and there, but I'd never lived there.
Did you feel like it was more chill?
Definitely, definitely. Some of the funny things that happened when I first moved out. I'd go call on clients, and I was coming from a really conservative corporate background, so I'm showing up in suit and stockings and heels, and clients would look at me and go, "Oh, East Coast, you need to let go of that. You need to let that go. We have something called business casual here."
Oh, I love that.
And I'm like, "What?
So there's super laid back people.
What?"
I like it.
So there definitely was a difference. I also found it was slower. Just there's something very very fast about the Northeast and the big cities in the Northeast, and I had found the South too slow.
Yeah.
So that had
felt
been that had been a pretty big difference, and Seattle felt just right.
The
So
Goldilocks.
it became exactly trying out my mattresses, exactly. So my porridge.
Yeah.
So it became home, and just a wonderful home for 30 years.
Jeez, 30 years. 30
Right.
years.
Yeah,
I'm
19.
37. This is wild.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
man.
Exactly. So what happened then, the next big event was the house was just our beautiful duplex getting too big, just really too big. And things were just starting to change in Seattle, and costs just going up and up and up. And I'm starting to plan for retirement a little bit, yet still helping kids through college. It's like, how do you balance all those different things? Particularly because I had my daughters later, so it gives less time in between. And it was a 9-year journey for Tara to become a veterinarian, and it was 5.5-year journey for my youngest to get her engineering degree.
Nice.
So just thinking about what to do, and then the precipitating event that came up was my daughter announced that she would be moving to Spokane, and that when she graduated from Pullman from veterinary school, she wouldn't be coming back to Seattle. Because I think Mom and I had been kind of like waiting at like some level, like, are either of the kids going to come back? Is there, because we clearly did not need all this space of 4,900 square feet, 2 homes.
Where did they go to college? Did they go away from Seattle?
They did. Tara had gone down to University of San Diego, so she was down in Southern California for her bachelor's, and then she was accepted into veterinary school at Washington State University in Pullman, so Eastern Washington.
Got it.
So that's what got her out to, and her fiancé, now her husband, my son-in-law Nathan. That's what got them out to Pullman, and then Spokane was like the big city for them because Pullman's tiny.
How far is that place?
Pullman is 80 minutes south,
Okay, got
so
it.
just over an hour.
Beautiful.
And so they would come up to Spokane when they needed to go to the bigger city
Yep.
for things. So they started getting familiar with it, and then what had happened with the cost of housing was I had the good fortune to live on Seattle's east side. I was in Kirkland, and the average price of a home in Kirkland is now 1.4 million. Average. So this is an issue. Picture being a young couple ready to start out and they want to buy that home, but they know they want to have a family also, and there's school debt.
Good luck.
That's just the reality. So they made the very smart choice and they said, we're not going to come back to Seattle. And Nathan's parents also were in Kirkland and had been in Kirkland for 30 plus years. So 'cause they were high school sweethearts. So we lived like a mile from each other. So the family was definitely there. So when we heard the kids weren't coming back and just, enough things had been changing for me, I thought, wow, I am now ready to move. And that was kind of a surprise for me. It kind of snuck up on me at first, and then I realized it's time for a change. It's time to just dream a new dream, because I had the good fortune of, living somewhere I really loved and in this, beautiful home that we'd built, but it was time for a change.
Around what year was that?
This was a year and a half ago.
Oh, wow.
So this was 2022, 2022 at that time. So, and then we needed to make a good plan for my mom, because she needed help and, needed to be near family, as a super senior. And so what we came up with was, well, if I'm going to move, it would be great if mom would also move. And you can't sell half a duplex, as the joke goes, because I legally looked at it.
Wow.
Because you can potentially condominiumize it and, do some things to literally sell half a duplex, but it just wasn't practical. Because, as I said, she needed to be near family too.
Yeah.
So she did agree over time. It was a pretty big shift for her, but it's like, great grandchildren, be there with the grandkids. And also Nathan's parents decided to move. So this was starting to make it, more compelling too. So it's like we really engineered a full family move.
Amazing.
And all moved across the state.
Absolutely amazing.
And when I started, so this just like opened up all my possibilities for me. It's like, okay, so if we're going to move, what do I want to do? And I knew I did not want to have a mortgage, and I did not want to tie up all my money in housing or my energy or, my creativity, because I'd been doing the 4,900 square foot, half an acre.
So big.
And it was too much.
Yeah.
It just didn't make any sense anymore.
Totally.
Mom and I were each paying almost $700 a month in property taxes. That's $1,400. That used to be a house payment.
Yeah.
So, and just we were each paying about $225 for the insurance, for the homeowner's insurance.
Oh my God, just for the insurance.
Exactly.
Holy cow.
$225 each. So that's $450. Because you got to look at the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it just was time to move.
Right.
It was time to move, and I knew the biggest thing leaving behind was a lot of friends, a lot of just wonderful, lot of friends.
That's gotta be tough.
So at least it's drivable. You can go back for a weekend
Very
easily, and friends have been coming out here too.
Very fair.
So it's not like going to Timbuktu. But as I started looking at options, it really was time to dream a new dream. So I looked at everything. I looked at the prices I didn't want to do a single family home. I was not drawn to condos or townhouses, partly because I have a dog and it's just, you want to be ground level, you want to have that yard.
Yep.
And I, for the first time, started really thinking about tiny houses. I didn't get there directly. I looked at like ADUs, boxable casita, looked at different ideas with the concept of putting it in the backyard at Tara and Nathan's. And then my daughter lovingly told me, too close, Mom, too close. That's not happening for you.
Oh my God.
I thought, oh, you'll sing a different tune when the babies come.
Oh, I bet. I was like, Mom, where are you?
Right. Why do you live 20 minutes away? It's so far.
Oh man.
But you don't know what you don't know, and so I just looked at different options, and I kept going back to them, like, tiny house nation. was really interesting. I think that opened up for a lot of people just to understand.
That was on cable TV, I think.
Yes.
HGTV or whatever.
HGTV. Yeah, that sounds right. I think it was on Home and Garden Television. Exactly. So I had watched all those episodes and I thought they were fascinating. I think Zach Giffen is just such, and John Weisbarth too, just passionate advocates for the tiny home movement. And Zach is just a brilliant, he's not just a carpenter. I mean, he's like a mastermind of how you can make this one piece of furniture in a small space do 4 different things. You know?
Yeah, when I see that happening in other tours and buses,
hyper customization.
yeah, it's how did you come up with that?
Exactly.
Like, you must have a real peaceful mind or something. Like,
exactly.
That's pretty
so
impressive.
that had been in the back of my mind, but my goal wasn't to be traveling everywhere with it. And I had always felt like it was confining because I understand why it needs to be 8'6" or less to be able to easily, tow it yourself with the proper vehicle. And that wasn't my goal. So I took a brief foray into mobile homes, and is maybe a mobile home the right option for me? I just wanted to buy for cash. That was my goal. And
did you have a budget in mind?
I didn't really, because I didn't think I could meaningfully set a budget until I knew what the costs of things were. You have to kind of like go at it both ways. Have an idea of which we want to spend, but does it make any sense? Is it doable at all? So I had to get educated too.
Yeah.
So towards some mobile homes, that's where I started my journey of like non-traditional, and went down to a factory expo an hour south of Portland, Oregon, and went down, and they were wonderful, very kind. They're very high volume, and actually, got to go down and see all the different models because you're at the factory. And they had a couple park models. So that's where the park model starts to get, built into my brain, and I'm not seeing it really sneaking up on me because park models aren't that well known. But just the 3 models that they had, they weren't my home. It just, none of them, they always had a fatal flaw for what I wanted and needed to do, and I just couldn't picture myself in it.
So you're able to walk through a whole slew of these
Yes,
things.
exactly.
For the audience, what were some of these turn-offs and turn-ons?
Sure. So what I was looking for, I definitely wanted a main floor bedroom, and a lot of tiny houses have the loft is the bedroom, and that just was not appealing to me. I also eliminated any place with a ladder or super steep stairs that my dog couldn't get up or down, or that, I'm like, well, I'm already in my 60s. If I want to age in place in this as long as possible, I don't want a ladder. And also be practical. You're not just tripping up, traipsing up and down the ladder you're always carrying something.
Yeah, and those ladders are steep. I've been on some.
Starts to become not safe. And I'm like carrying a crate with me, or carrying, and it's different too if there's different people in the house, you're handing things to each other, but it's me. And the dog doesn't hand things off great, so. And she's also too big to tuck under my arm, because people with the little 10-pound dogs, they just carry him up and down the ladders.
45, you said?
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so these were some of the things. And I work from home full time. I wanted a dedicated office space, somewhere that could, you could leave at the end of the day and just, be able to leave papers out. And I didn't want it, in the main living area. So as I looked at the different homes, they weren't checking what was now becoming my critical, list of what I need to find in the house.
Yeah.
I really care about the kitchen too. The kitchen's the heart of the home to me, and I like to cook, and I wanted full-size appliances, and those don't exist in a lot of places, because I batch cook, and I freeze my own dinners. You came for lunch yesterday, and it was not soup for 2 people. It was soup for 10, and I freeze it, kind of thing. So I wanted the freezer space, etc. So the list kind of started coming together. And then what happened next was a lot of good advice from the YouTube channels. I was really watching, tiny home tours, living big in a tiny house, and just listening to people who were living in these different types of non-traditional homes, alternative homes, of why they chose it, what was important to them, what worked, what didn't work. Because there's great information when you hear people that have, lived in it for a time period, or they're building their second one or their third one, or they're redoing things about it.
Right.
So I just really jumped into that kind of information. And great advice was make sure you've got your parking spot figured out,
What do you mean?
the place to locate the home. Because it's easy to buy a tiny home, but where are you going to legally park it?
Oh, right. Yeah.
So that was important. So since I was informed that was not going to be in my daughter's backyard,
Come on.
and I didn't want to go live, way out on a farm or somewhere, because Spokane gets super snowy and it can get really isolating. So it's like, okay, I want to be a bit more suburban, and I want to be near where my daughter and son-in-law are and where my mom are living, because they're about 10 minutes apart. So it's like I want to kind of, form a triangle with them, or, get somewhat near them. So I looked for a tiny home community, because I thought, well, that would be a slam dunk. So I'm like Googling, talking to people, trying to find one. Well, let me tell you, there aren't any in the Spokane area. There's actually one being planned now.
An actual tiny
Home community just for tiny homes. I think they're planning for 30. It's in Millwood, which is a section of Spokane Valley.
Beautiful.
But, it has to get through all the approval processes and that sort of thing. It's also about a block off the train.
That's kind of enticing to get downtown, I bet.
No, it's not passenger train. So it's a lot of commerce.
Oh,
so
no, it's
that means it's noisy.
That's not going to be fun. I hope they put a big wall up or something.
Right.
'Cause that's
Right.
going to be, that would turn me off.
Right.
I would say that.
Right. So, but, it's great there's going to be a tiny home community. But I started looking at mobile home parks. And I learned that there was a distinction there too, because some mobile home parks are only licensed for literally mobile homes. Some can also accept RVs, and some can accept park model homes. So you had to get like really specific in your conversations with people.
Yeah.
And I was ruling out a mobile home at that point, and it's like I found a park that looked really enticing, but they didn't have empty lots was the next thing, because I didn't know that. And when you're trying to get into a mobile home park, I just pictured, well, some will be occupied, but they'll have open spots too.
Yep.
That's not the situation.
Interesting.
Most mobile homes are, fully built out, and if you'd like to come on in, great, welcome. Especially if you meet the criteria, because I did decide to do 55 plus gated. I was hoping to find, and I needed one that would accept my dog.
Yeah.
So the list is starting to get long of where to find. And I was close to moving into one, but the only available empty lot they had, it just was too small. It's like, I can't picture it. I can't imagine it. So I regretfully said no thank you to that one, to that location. And I settled on where I am now, which is working out beautifully.
Nice.
But to get to this decision and this place and to sign that land lease, because you're renting the land, you're renting your lot basically to put the home on. I contacted over 50 mobile home parks. It was that big of a search to find
Just
one
even in this whole
in the
area.
local area that was going to be close enough to my family where they were going to be, buying.
Yeah.
And the 55 plus, the gated, and that would accept my dog. And Henley turned out to be the kicker, because most that I could find, there was a dog weight limit, because I didn't have any issue with breed restrictions because she's a lab mix. But most of them were, 20-pound dog limit or 30-pound or 35. So I was just like, okay, I can't do that one. I can't do that one. I can't do that one, because I was not going to give up my dog.
Yeah.
And I also wasn't going to lie about her size and weight.
Right.
It's just, you got to be upfront about things.
Gotta drop 10 pounds.
Right, exactly. She just looked at you like, oh, forget it. So I found the perfect spot. And it was actually the park manager at the place that just had the location, the lot that was just too small for me. It was just too tight with what was around it. And she said to me, "What about a park model home?" Because they're a smaller footprint than a mobile home.
Yeah.
And when she said 399 square feet to me at first, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't possibly do 399 square feet. Are you kidding?
Yeah, you just
Are
went
you
from 10
kidding?
times the amount.
From, right, 2,200 square feet
Oh
with a
my
2.5 car
God.
garage
Negative
and
10x. Let's
half
go.
an acre. And it's like, wow, how do you do this? But part of it was I had to just get out there and tour them. I had to learn that good design makes all the difference in small space being really usable.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I didn't quite find what I needed in the models at Factory Expo that still are a great option and they're wonderfully priced. They're between, I think it was 50,000 for the one with no loft, and then the two lofted models were like 65 to 70.
Nice.
And to be able to purchase your home for that,
That's like, sign me up already.
that's a big deal.
That's a huge deal.
That's a big deal.
Especially
And
everything's average, what, $400,000
yes,
at this point, and maybe you're getting 1,200 square feet
right.
if you're even lucky.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So, it's a wonderful option for a lot of people. But with the park manager saying to me park model home, and then I learned the loft space does not count in your square footage. And you might have another 200 square feet potentially,
Yeah.
whatever amount depending what the
Yeah.
layout is. So at that point, I discovered Park Model Homes. And they are technically a dealer. So they're a distributor. So they've got park models from many different companies. So they have Woodland Park, they have Champion, they have Knopf, they have just, different ones.
Yeah.
And so that merited a visit. So I drove on out, and amazingly, so number one dealer in the whole US. So, just great, just volume. They really know what they're doing. It's a 40-year-old family-owned company, and
Oh,
I
wow.
love working with, small businesses and family-owned, and someone that's been in business for 40 years.
That's amazing.
That really kind of speaks to what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I came on out and brought a friend with me, and we went and toured them. And walking through them, I could just tell. I just kept going back to it. I tore another one. I'm like, nope, I like the Woodland Park Vault. Nope. And I tore three more. And I was like, nope, I like the Woodland Park Vault. Show me it again. And I just kept dialing in of why it checked all my boxes.
Interesting.
When I walked into it, having that mid-entry kitchen, because it just, for me, the kitchen's the heart of the home. And having that 13 and a half feet, it's like, wow, I've never had this in a traditional house. So to just have that space and to just see that there was, there just was great cabinetry and the appliances and just the layout in the room, having the movable island with a storage in it and just a spot to put the appliances. And then I loved the raised living room, that it was a defined space, because a lot of the ones that I toured, and I get why this is done, it's really one room for kitchen, living room, dining area, so you can max the space and use it however you want. But I didn't love it that way. I just preferred it with like more separation, more defined spaces.
Yeah, I feel that too.
So
Interesting.
that's what started to draw me to it. And then it checked the box of it had a main level bedroom. So that was there. And the bathroom was great, just plenty of cabinetry and storage. And it was not the little 32 square squishy shower.
Bathroom for a tiny home.
The bathroom is
very
great.
big.
I mean, I feel like I'm in a house.
I was just gonna say that. This reminds me of kind of like the shotgun style homes of Chicago where I come from, where they're not like super wide, but they're like long like this.
Right.
It
Must
took
be
me
to
back.
do with lot size.
Yeah.
With how they carved out
I
the
bet
lots.
back
Yeah.
then, too,
Yeah, that's why
yeah.
the shotgun. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, it brought me right back to childhood. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, this is
Yeah,
this
you had like
feels
the
very cozy.
60 foot lots and yeah.
Yeah, a little gangway just
Yeah.
to walk through.
Yeah,
Wild
exactly. So, having that 39-inch shower, and it just, and, plenty of counter space to lay stuff out on. And it just, and the bedroom having everything built in. So it's like they've maximized every inch of space, just and done it beautifully.
And it feels very custom. Like it feels extremely luxurious walking through here. And when I did your tour the other day and I was doing B-roll, I'm like this isn't just your IKEA stuff or Home Depot. Like someone actually put this together.
Right.
And it's not going anywhere.
Right.
And all soft closed. Like, come on.
Right, exactly. I've never had soft close cabinets before.
It's so nice to have.
It really is. And just the modern construction, because there's, USB outlets in the wall and just, little things like that just, make a difference in having, the luxury plank vinyl flooring, which is just so practical and, so great with a dog. And it just, Anderson windows, and it ticked the boxes, and it had a stairwell to go up to the 55-inch loft, and it was the tallest loft I could find. I believe it's the tallest loft in the industry.
Wow.
I did not find any other home with a loft that size.
Yeah.
And what that translates into is I can have a traditional desk up there and a traditional task chair.
Yep.
And because I'm little, I'm 5'2", I can, put the chair up and down. My 6'4" son-in-law up there, he has to have the chair all the way down, and he still looks like his head's like grazing the
Oh my God.
ceiling. But for me, just the space worked, and the friend that I had with me, it was so funny. She just had a really good mind. I said, "Oh my gosh, it's like I'm with like a physical therapist or something." She said, "I want to see you sit on that stool at the counter. Is it the right height for you? Because they don't adjust." And I'm like, "Yeah, this is the right height for me." And she says, "I want to see you reach in that cabinet. Can you reach in everything in the cabinet and below, and what are the ergonomics?"
Yeah, what a great to have a witness with you.
It was.
That sounds like the right move to make when you're going house hunting, right? Or if you're house hunting in a normal neighborhood, bring a friend.
Exactly, because
like
they just see things that you don't see.
That's so smart.
And just helping you picture, if it's your home. And one of the models, for instance, down at Factory Expo, why I crossed it off the list, that the loft wasn't high enough. And they had a big showcase refrigerator freezer. It was a 4-door, but it was in the hallway. It was a little bit out of the kitchen, and the only way to open it was to stand in the bathroom.
Interesting.
And you couldn't put anything on the counters. And well, that's how I work in the fridge. I put stuff in and out from the counters. So that to me was kind of awkward. I mean, obviously you get used to it and you figure out a different way to do it.
Right.
But that one I was like, no, that just got the X.
Yeah, I mean, in the world of having too many options, I think it's okay to be like, no, there's going to be another one.
Right,
like that's just how it is.
Right,
now, which
right.
is,
Exactly.
that should give people some sense of certainty and hope that like whatever you're looking for is out there somewhere.
Right.
You just gotta find it.
You just have to keep looking, because I did get a little disheartened when it took over 50 mobile home parks to check out, and kept hitting no's, no space, absolutely no space, you can only come here if you want to live in one of the existing mobile homes, if you're lucky enough it goes up for sale, and we do have one for sale, we'll just take this one. It's like, but that's not the home I want.
Yeah.
So that was tricky. Or you can come but no dog, and it just trying to keep to that essential list. So I found where I am now in November of 2022. And I came out here in person, and the owner was gracious enough to come meet with me. And he had, I brought my potential site contractor with me, because you need a site contractor too to set up the home.
I didn't even know that.
Yes, yeah, you don't just roll it on in and throw down your levelers like in an RV. So I actually went ahead and made the commitment in November of 22.
Wild.
We didn't even have our house on the market. Mom wasn't wanting to move at that point, so it was kind of a leap of faith. It's like, oh, but this space, I know how hard it was to find this space. I am signing the land lease and putting down my deposit, and had them. I said, please go ahead, do your background check, do whatever you need to do to make sure that I'm a fit for you.
Totally. And all this is happening while you're still in Seattle.
Yes.
in this big old
Yes,
house.
exactly. With it, not on the market because
Yeah.
mom's not quite there yet.
Where did you find this person that has to come and set up your home? I'm sure people are a little curious about
The
this
site
now.
contractor, yes.
Yeah, where do you
Yes,
where do you go
I
to those?
actually was referred to the site contractor by Park Model Homes.
Amazing.
So they were able to refer me to someone, and I used a company called Level Living. What a perfect name. Because that's the first thing they did once the house got backed in here by the 18-wheeler and we got it situated. They brought in this huge level. It was larger than this counter, so it was like a 5-foot level, and said, oh, that's about the center of the house. We're just going to put that there. And then they get the house level.
Whoa.
And then they put it up on 8 or 10 stanchions and get it up on those, so it's taking some of the weight off the trailer and off the tires.
Yeah.
Because I'm still on a trailer and tires.
Right. And you probably don't move it around. You don't feel the house moving.
No, it doesn't move a smidge.
It's amazing.
So they got it, they got it leveled and up on those, and then it got tied down. So it got tied down, and so they auger into the ground with these huge tie downs. We were doing it right before the big eclipse that was on Monday, April 15th. It was like, tie it down for that eclipse energetically. So we got it all done. And then what they do, the bulk of the work, it was 2 gentlemen from Level Living, recommend them highly, and they work within like a 3-hour area of Spokane. So they do like northern Idaho and, kind of going out to central state and within 3 hours of Spokane.
So someone living, let's say in Arizona, might have to find a different company.
Exactly.
A different thing.
They're going to need to find a closer
regional people here.
Exactly.
In the Spokane.
That's
Coeur d'Alene
their
area.
service area is 3 hours within 3 hours of Spokane. And the main part of what they're doing is they're building out the framing that goes around the house, the trailer and below, to put the skirting on. And my skirting is actually metal. And it's also got a lot of insulation there too.
Nice.
Because Spokane can get really cold.
Yep.
So it's got, we're not having like a draft coming up underneath the house.
It's where you lose all your heat.
Exactly. So they're framing all that and then cutting all that sheet metal. So they just did a fantastic job. And then they hooked up all my connections that were already here. And that was one of the advantages of moving to the mobile home park.
Yeah. So you're fully on grid.
I'm fully on
Plumbing,
grid.
electrical.
Yes.
All of it.
Fully on grid for everything. There was already a shed here on the property, which was great. So I was able to use that for that outdoor storage.
Yeah. I think people would be shocked to hear this all happened, like, how long ago?
When I actually found this lot?
Like, when did you...
Oh,
when
I
did this
moved
thing...
in here last month. I moved in here in April.
These dudes were just here
we
leveling
are.
your house out.
Yes,
so
exactly. Yeah, the house was delivered April 5th.
Oh, man.
And that was so much fun after 18 months of work and some stress. And is this plan going to come together? Yeah. But the plan all came together beautifully with one more loop and twirl, which was when I had looked at the Woodland Park vault. You always want to make changes, you want to customize because it's your full-time home, and who knows, this is going to be my full dream home. This may be it. I don't know.
Yeah. Before we get to there, though,
sure.
I know it's a juicy story. What happened to the Seattle house?
So we interviewed a couple different realtors and chose one and came up with our plan of what needed to be done to get it on the market, to just, have it show really well. Because beautiful house, but you've always got some owner specific things, particularly in a custom house.
Yeah.
And in my 2,200 square feet, I really like color. I had 12 different colors of paint. So I knew what they were going to tell me was, that's got to go.
Paint it all white.
Agreeable gray.
That is the new scheme nowadays, right?
Agreeable gray.
Interesting.
Every wall, every ceiling. I cried. I went and did that away from the interior designer. I cried.
God.
I knew they were right, and I did take a video the last day before they started painting, And I'm just going to go through and film my house one more time so I remember it in all its colors. And then we're going to start painting. We interviewed multiple painters. I ended up rehiring the same painter who had painted it when we moved in.
Oh, wow.
The original painter was the best bid, and the lead painter had done it as a 25-year-old and was now back doing it as a 40-year-old.
Oh my
He said,
God.
"You can't believe how many people I've told about your house and all the colors in it." I said, "You were probably cursing me, all those cuts." He's like, "No, I loved it because you knew, and it all worked. And I mean, yellow was, the primary, and the neutral. But then, different rooms where I let each daughter pick their own color, and my bedroom was a different color, and the bathrooms, it wasn't chaotic."
Yeah, totally. I grew up the same way. Every room had a totally different color scheme,
Right,
totally different
right.
thing, and then
Right.
I love it.
I could not purchase the tiny home so I've got the land. I don't have the home because we haven't sold the big house. So until the big house sold, everything was kind of in limbo financially.
Interesting.
So needed it to sell. And we put it on the market March 17th of 23, and it didn't sell until October.
Dang.
So yeah, so that was a number of months. So you're still, paying those expenses. And we moved. We moved in May. We set our cutoff date, and we knew when the kids were moving up from Pullman to Spokane, and we got everything set. And I drew my line in the sand and said, "Mom, I'm moving on this day. Can we move you a couple days before?" So Tara and Nathan moved on a Friday. In mid-May. We moved my mom the Wednesday after, 4 days later, and I moved Saturday after. So in 8 days, we moved everybody from 3 homes to 3 new homes.
Dang.
And then no one could find anything. You'd be calling each other, "Can you find a corkscrew? Do you have a can opener?"
Oh, man. And that was quite literally a year ago now.
Yes.
So you got the house sold in October.
Got the house sold in October.
You're here in May.
Yes.
You weren't in the tiny home yet.
No.
Because this was only a month ago.
Exactly.
So
because
I'm sure
other
people
pieces,
are like, now what? What are you
other
doing?
pieces had to come together. So I also got the great advice: before you fully commit to going tiny, have you lived tiny? Have you rented one? Have you stayed in one? So I'm scouring like Airbnb. I'm trying to rent them. I'm trying to find tiny home communities to, rent in. I'm trying to find different places. And what I found when I was looking for a place to rent, because I decided the best thing to do rather than moving everything more than once, because again, we're still, in some period of limbo here. I decided the best thing to do was rent a furnished place and just rent a little furnished place and practice going tiny. So I found this awesome little cabin, lakefront cabin on Hauser Lake, Idaho. So I went and lived there. So that's where I moved to in May. So all my stuff goes into storage, goes into a pods, and it's just sitting out in Seattle in pods because it's not going to fit in that little cabin. And I'm just trying it out.
Any connection from your childhood with this little cabin?
Yeah,
Sounds like it's pretty much the same.
Little, tiny 1 bed, 1 bath. I had a loft, which Henley could never get up into because it was a ladder. So. But it just, and I also learned can't do the apartment size fridge. So, it confirmed and denied certain things. Like, yeah, I can do this amount of space. This confirms I do need the dedicated home office because I had this tiny little 32-inch desk, just big enough for the monitor, shoved in the middle of the living room between the living room and the kitchen because it was just one room. And then the bedroom and the bathroom and, the little loft. So, but it was just a great place to be, a great place to land. We loved it. She became a lake dog.
Awesome.
And it was lovely, lovely people, renting it. Still friends today. And it was fairly close to my family. It was about 45 minutes. I had no plan to move to Idaho, but this was the rental that came up that just fit the bill the best. I just couldn't find what I was looking for in Spokane or Spokane Valley.
That's really cool.
So I was there through the fall. And then I could kind of see the writing on the wall of this might not be my place for the winter because I had no garage, no carport, and I thought I'm going to get dumped with snow.
And you're in northern Idaho.
I was in northern Idaho.
Oh yeah, you're getting
Going to get dumped.
a lot of snow.
Going to get dumped. So I made the decision to move, and I looked for another furnished finder. And furnishedfinder.com is this wonderful website. It's primarily targeted to traveling nurses, but also relocating professionals. And it's just fantastic because it's homey, and it's just a furnished place that you can rent for perhaps 3 months, whatever time. Because my time period was unknown. That was what was hard, was we didn't know when the house would sell. So I didn't know when my money would free up to be able to buy the house I wanted to buy, to go on the lot that's sitting there waiting for me.
Yeah. So you're just going month by month at this point.
I'm going month by month. So what happened in October, I had made the decision, okay, because I actually decided in September, I'm going to need to make another move.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I might as well get into Spokane Valley, where I'm going to be going to, and start learning that area. And I just need to find something with a garage or a carport and get, settled in, snug in for the winter. Because I did not want to be moving a tiny home in the middle of winter, and still didn't know when the house was going to sell. So I made the decision in September to move, found the new spot to move to, and actually I moved November 3rd. And in October, late October, it was still 70 degrees. I'm like, oh wow, global warming really is a thing. But then suddenly it went from 70 to 20 overnight, and we had snow.
Jeez Louise, psych.
It dropped 50 degrees, and it did not go back up. I was like, did we miss fall?
Holy
We went
moly.
straight from fall to what to me is winter, because there's snow on the ground.
Yeah. And you know what winter is.
Right. And I'm like, wow, I missed a season there. There was no season change. We missed fall. But so I went ahead and moved into my new rental, and the new rental was big enough I could have my pods delivered.
Nice.
And then I could start going through all the stuff.
Just one step closer.
One step closer. And then in October, the house sold to a 3-generation family, like perfect. And they were so excited, close to work for them, and got the grandparents coming in, new baby on the way. I'm like, oh, this is like a mirror echo in time. This is what this house was built for. It's just perfect. What happened next was I'm now able to put a timeline together. So when I rented the second rental, I signed a specific lease that was going to be good through the end of April. So I gave myself a month to be in both places, because I knew it was going to take some time to set the new house and get the park model home all set up, and to do a slide move, because I was moving myself. And moving into a park model home or a tiny home, it's not a normal move. You can't show up with your pods or your U-Haul truck, because you're going to overwhelm the place. You can't fit in more than like 6 boxes, because you have to unpack them and figure out where it's going. So I just brought like a loose carload a day of 4 to 6 boxes myself. Tara and Nathan helped me move over just the few pieces of furniture, and they did just one run with me, and brought Nathan hoisted my heavy desk upstairs, because I knew I couldn't carry that up the stairs myself. So he took the 75-pound box upstairs for me. And just so I just did this slide move, and I did make sure that rental, it also could go to month, just in case something went wrong with purchasing. So I'd fallen in love with the Woodland Park Vault. I'd toured it multiple times, but when we really worked up the price on customizing it, it was around $175 to $180, including almost $15,000 to have it shipped from Indiana, because it's over 1,000 miles to come from the factory, and it's 18-wheeler plus 2 pilot cars, special class driver. That's a lot of money, and you don't get that back. It's just so I was not excited about that, and so I wasn't sure what to do. And I thought, I need to take one more look at this. I need to confirm this decision. And all of a sudden, so I've started looking again. Is there anyone building park model homes around me? Nope, no one. They're pretty much in the Midwest, and there's not that many places that build them. So it makes sense. They're in the Midwest, and then they're shipping throughout the country. So I can't find one. It's like, but when I was doing that, I stumbled across tiny Idahomes, and they build tiny homes on wheels, so you're down to the 8.8 feet 6 inches, which I felt was narrow, but they have slides. So they took that concept from the RV industry, and they're the only tiny home builder I can find that has a slide on it.
Interesting.
And that changes the dynamic a lot. So the living room actually had 2 slides on it. So your 8.6 just became a 14-foot room.
Wow.
Because it's got 2 slides fully extended. So it's like, wow, could I do this? So I booked a factory tour and was in serious conversations with them, and I was able to rent an Airbnb made by them while I went down and went on the factory tour, because it's a full day drive down and back. So I booked myself into an Airbnb for 2 nights and said, let me try one out.
Right. This is down by Boise?
It's just outside of Boise, exactly. Wonderful company, people, factory tour, and you get to really customize what you could do the beautiful beetle kill wood, and and they have like a dome roof. I was looking at their Carpathian model.
That sounds awesome.
Which was their largest, but it had a couple things in it that there was just in the bathroom, for instance. I get the trade-off. They've got a washer and dryer in the bathroom, plus your shower, plus your toilet. But so the sink was this big and 0 counter space. I mean, you couldn't even put a toothbrush down. And I'm like, hey, where do I put my blow dryer down? Where do I lay my clothes down to get dressed? And I couldn't quite wrap my head around no counter space in the bathroom. Because again, the excellent trade-off of washer and dryer in there. And also, there was storage under the bed, but it wasn't the pneumatic lift. You had to lift it up manually and prop it up on a broom or something. And my daughter was like, Mom, don't stick your head in there. I'm like, I'm not liking this idea.
It's like a giant human trap.
Trying to reach something and the bed falls on you. I'm like, oh goodness.
Thanks.
And it was smaller, and it was their largest model. It just didn't have the storage space. The office also, the loft was so much lower. There was no way to do the traditional. You'd have to do the low clearance desk and be sitting on the floor on something. It's like, I don't think I can work like that for a full day. I don't think that's going to work for me. So, just were a couple things about it. Even though it was lovely and, just a great option and great company.
Yeah.
So, but I worked up the full bid, and fully customizing it, it was going to come in close to $130. So that's kind of getting me in the mindset of how the heck can I get that Woodland Park vault around that price point? Because that's reset me to a new price point, honestly. And I had let Park Model Homes know that I unfortunately was not going to be able to buy the Woodland Park vault, because just kind of the way the house sale had gone, and just kind of the division of funds, etc. Because I was the minority owner, and there had been a lot of expenses. So I let Park Model Homes know that, and I said I'm going down to tiny Idahomes, and I'm probably going to purchase the Carpathian, and here's my budget. Here's what I'm really thinking now, and we're like 45 to 50 apart. That's just huge. I don't see any way to make a deal.
That's like someone's living for a year almost.
Right. It's like, I don't see how to make this work. So once I went down to tiny Idahomes and rolled out the Carpathian, I'm like, dang, what do I do at this point? And so I came back really bummed out, because I don't have a home. I don't know what to do. And about 3 days after I got back from visiting tiny Idahomes, Park Model Homes contacted me and said, hey, we have an idea. What would you think of buying our showcase model Woodland Park vault? You've already been through it. You actually toured it.
This was where, in Portland, right?
No, right here in Spokane Valley.
So they have
live.
So they have a dealer here, but they build them in Indiana.
No. Yes. Who's down in Portland, south of Portland, is Factory Expo.
Got it.
And Park Model Homes is repping for different companies, but they're right in Spokane Valley. So they have showcase models because people, you don't want to just buy off the internet. You need to walk through it if you possibly can, if you can drive to Spokane Valley. But they were right where I lived. I mean, it was perfect. So that's where I had come out to and had looked at it multiple times. So I had revisited it like a month ago, a month before. And what the showcase model was, it's the one that had been on their lot for about 8 months. And it was now becoming outdated because they want to bring in the 2024 and they've got the 2023. So no one's lived in it. So, and they just gave me an amazing price. It didn't have exactly everything I wanted in it, but you know what? Everything's worked out as a great trade. I'm absolutely fine without the dishwasher. I've got more kitchen drawers. I'm fine without the washer and dryer. It's the amenity right here in the park I'm living in. There's a laundromat. I can do it twice as fast because there's 2 washers and 2 dryers, and I don't have my tiny house shaking.
Yeah, no, that sounds perfect.
So it just came together really, really well, and I was so grateful that Park Model Homes gave me, this wonderful deal. And they do this on an ongoing basis. So it's just a great place to consider because, picture having like 20 models out on your lot, from time to time. You've got to refresh, you've got to sell them.
Totally.
And they just sell them for a great price. I mean, certainly if you want to get exactly what you want, you just order it direct from the factory and get exactly what you want. And I mean, the customization is incredible. You can change windows, you can change doors, which blew my mind. I didn't think that would be an option.
Interesting.
It's not just flooring and backsplash and things you'd expect to be able to change. It's doors and windows.
So you get like legit customized home.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Exactly.
So I'm chomping at the bit. How much did you pay for this thing?
So they sold it to me for $118.
Holy cow!
And with tax, with delivery, because I had a small delivery fee just to go the 5 miles, and getting it licensed, I came in at $129 on my new budget of $130.
Jeez Louise! So you saved yourself basically what, another
$50,000? Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, 15 of it having been the transport.
Oh yeah, you're just blowing that money away. Sure, you're like helping feed some families and whatever, but like at the end of the day, that's a luxury to spend $15,000.
Right. So
whoa.
Yeah, so I'm just thrilled, and I was very lucky with the land because it was all the way back in November of 22 that I had signed the lease for it, but I'm in contact regularly with the location where I am now, and they've got an empty lot, and thankfully they came up with the idea and said, "Hey Wendy, how would you feel about us renting it temporarily to RVs, and we'll do short-term rentals?" And I was like, "Oh please," because I didn't want to be paying on that land, not knowing if this was going to come together and when it was going to come together. So I was very, very fortunate that they came up with that, and that, got them whole. They didn't have an empty lot.
Right. Yeah. Everyone got
it was a
win-win on this one.
Just everything came together as, win-wins all along the way when it's your path and when it's the place to be.
Yeah, actually, when you put it that way. It's like everything gets out of your way and the universe kind of co-conspires with you.
Exactly, because we're really powerful creators and co-creators, and that's what I was trying to do, was just follow the path of where things were coming together instead of just knocking my head again and again against what wasn't working.
So you just kept pivoting.
I kept pivoting because there definitely were some pivots along the way.
So it's almost like not a no, but it's kind of like the universe going, I mean, you got to go, if you go this way,
in a different direction.
It's going to be even better than you imagined.
Exactly. Because I had no plan or intention of moving. And it came up again and again. Because my profession, I'm a certified spiritual teacher and an energy healer, and when I would have sessions with people, it came up for about 2 years before I actually decided it made sense to move and I wanted to move. And people kept saying to me, do you know you're meant to move? Have you considered moving? Are you thinking about moving? I'm like, why do people keep saying this to me?
That's pretty.
It was really interesting.
wild.
It kept coming through in readings for me. And so that was, of course, trying to kind of gently plant the seed because I was being pretty stubborn. I was like, no, I'm not moving. I'm waiting for my kids to come back.
Yeah.
Well, my kids aren't coming back.
That's so wild. So now here we are
Exactly.
inside your house now.
Exactly.
Like we just went through this wild journey
Yes.
of getting here.
Yes. With a lot of help from a lot of people. I just really feel very, very grateful to.
Yeah. So to satiate a couple more money things, what are you paying monthly to have this here? I know you had some notes down earlier. If you should walk us through the monthly payment here, maybe your monthly for the whole month on everything.
Sure.
Just to give the folks an idea of what it's like from their perspective, living where they live, maybe in the suburb of Chicago in a 2,000 square foot house, in Lombard, to here we are in Spokane Valley in an RV park. Or
so my household budget, all in, which includes $500 a month rent for the land lease, which includes water, sewer, and snow removal, and full mail and delivery services is $500. And when I add in everything, including budgeting $150 a month for home renovations, come up from time to time, and budgeting $200 a month for the improvements I want to make, carport, replace the shed, gutters, etc. All in, my household budget is $1,250 a month.
that's just,
which is incredible
amazing.
Because I had the good fortune to buy this for cash, so there's no mortgage going on, there's no home payment, and just everything is affordable enough because the price of the homeowner's insurance was $369 for the whole year, and just utilities, and just everything being just wonderfully affordable, all those line items. And that is just a shocking difference from what I was paying to live in the house that had just, become too large for us.
wild.
And where prices have gone up so much on the east side in Seattle.
I can't help but to wonder what a monthly would be on 130,000. Because I think when they finance these, they do it as an RV.
Yes.
And those payments are actually way cheaper than a normal mortgage usually is. Because you can get like an $80,000 RV, but you're only going to be paying like $400 or $500.
Well, a lot of people have to
it.
do it as a personal loan, which is higher interest rates than mortgages. Granted, mortgages have gone crazy because the interest has been so high.
Yeah.
Some people are able to do it through like a bank co-op. So something like that, or some people are fortunate and are borrowing from family and able to do it that way, or like me, are just very fortunate that they're selling a traditional home,
Right,
and able to
I'm
buy
sure
cash.
Most folks who potentially want to go tiny already have a house and they sell that, use some of that proceeds to go into here, whether it be paying for half of it, down payment, 25%, whatever you want.
Right.
But even then, if you're paying $500 to put this thing to live somewhere, let's just say your payment is $1,000, you're still only paying $1,500 a month just to have your house, which is kind of amazing. And you already have amenities here. The gates lock up. Like,
yes,
you got awesome neighbors, I bet. Like,
I
you're
do.
in a little community. Like,
I do, and I've got a yard. I mean, it's just I've got. I lucked into this double lot because having the little, it's got a little bit of a slope to it, and it's got a little retaining wall.
Right.
So it just wasn't suitable. You couldn't put, because of the hill and the retaining wall, you couldn't put a mobile home on it.
Yeah.
So it was only suitable for an RV, and that's why I sit in kind of sideways on the lot, which gives me a front yard.
And you're not locked in.
I'm not locked in.
Hook this thing up to a semi, boop, off you go.
Right.
Which we talked about yesterday.
Yes, so that is what I'm considering as a next move. So just want to attract that at the right point in life, and just get a wonderful lot that I can purchase, that I can live on legally. And it'd be great to have one that's already got some of that infrastructure, or maybe I'll start to take this off grid and make those changes. Just have to see what comes together. But getting onto my own land, it's not only not paying $6,000 $6,000 a year that you don't see back because it's rent,
Right.
it's land rent.
Totally.
So, but it's getting, because land appreciates, and with the tiny home, it is an RV. So this park model is an RV. So you're getting depreciation. I mean, obviously you're trying to take the best part of it, and I have the good fortune I'm in a luxury one, and the prices of them are going up and up. So, but to me, the way that makes sense financially is to get on your own land and have it be appreciating with it.
Totally. Oh my
So-
God, yeah. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
I hope you end up next to a lake as well, because that will just
Right.
bring your whole life all the way
I
back
know,
together.
wouldn't that? Well, and hey, there's 75 lakes within an hour's drive of Spokane. And I do just love to be by the water.
Odds are good.
Who doesn't? So, and
So
just,
grounding.
we'll put those windows to good use in the living room
That would be so amazing. You would have to redo your whole living room at that point.
to face. Yeah.
Put a nice big couch in front of the window. There's your new TV.
Yeah.
Outside.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's pretty cool. So, like, what does your family think about all this? Just to kind of start wrapping this up a little bit.
It was hard for them to visualize until they had some concerns, and it was hard for them to visualize until we came out here in person together last March, before we all moved out here. And we were out house hunting for my mother, trying to find a no-step rancher. That's like scarcer than hen's teeth. But we found the perfect one for her. And that same weekend, Park Model Homes is normally closed on the weekends, but they were so kind. They opened on the weekend for us and let us in because we were gathering from Pullman and driving out from Seattle. It's like, I've got my whole family. I really, please. So they opened on the weekend and let us tour it. And once my family was sitting in the living room, they're like, this is a house.
Yeah.
There was no more tiny word in it. They're like, oh my gosh, I like that kitchen. And, room by room, as we went through it, they're like, oh, this works. Oh, I can see you there. Oh, this works. My daughter and son-in-law both are really tall, so they didn't love the loft.
Right.
But hey, at 5'2", it's very different than if you're 5'9" or 6'4". Totally. They're crawling up there. Yep. I just have to duck my head.
That's amazing.
It's different. So
That's pretty neat.
But it was being in it, and again, seeing residential quality like Anderson windows, etc., and seeing Frigidaire appliances, and knowing that it was just fully on grid, and understanding those pieces of it. And also, I brought them out to see the lot.
Amazing.
So once they could see those pieces, they're like, okay, because they were kind of picturing. I think we all do. We're all picturing this tiny home being towed down the road. And they were like, why? We just can't see you in that. We're not seeing it. I'm like, no, I'm talking about a park model, 11 foot wide, 36 feet long. So it's just different. And they're like, okay, it's a home. When they were in the living room, they're like, it's a home.
Yeah. Your mind completely changes when you walk in these things.
Yes. And when
Every
they walked
time.
in and looked up and went, wow, it's open in here.
Totally. That happens to me when I go and film school buses that have raised roofs.
The raised, yes.
You see a thing from the outside, you're like, it's a stupid school bus. And you walk inside, you're like,
You're
oh
like,
my
oh, it's
God.
a home.
This doesn't
Some
feel
of them
like a
are
school bus anymore.
Gorgeous. They're just brilliant.
Mind-blowing,
They're
some of
brilliant how they've planned, like some of those 40-foot, even the smaller ones, just how they've planned it. Like, the spice rack for days, and but planning it to you, and how you live and cook and relax and sleep and.
I don't know where all this comparison came from, but it's like everyone's different.
Right.
Everyone's different. Everything's going to look different to you than from the other person, and just the ideas are always changing. So, I mean, like, I guess I urge whoever's watching, like, if you haven't been in a tiny home, go find a place that has tiny homes. Just go for a walk in one of them. You'll be pleasantly surprised. It almost feels like. It reminds me of being a kid. I used to make a lot of Lego homes and stuff like that.
Right.
And like I've always loved that little coziness. You walk in these things, and it just screams cozy constantly.
Exactly, to just build your own, and you can do such good research, with YouTube, as I said, like shows like yours, and also there's Facebook groups. Like if you're in Washington State Tiny Homes and Houses Commission, and Tiny House Resource Group, and Tiny House Concierge. there's some quality resources out there of people who are the advocacy for living tiny legally, and those sorts of things that just have a lot of great information.
Yeah, save some of that money and go out and spend it at cool places.
Right.
Go experience
more.
life. Yeah.
I mean, that's why living big in a tiny house. I mean, that's why just that that name.
Totally.
With Bryce's channel being one of the first that I'm aware of tiny home tours, because it's like 10+ years old. Is that's the point, is to get to live, because I just feel like my time is freed up. I feel like my creativity's freed up since I moved here. Just little things like planting a garden for the first time that I never had time to do before. I finished a book.
That's amazing.
Even in the midst of all this busyness of moving in, I just was like, oh, I can finish that book, and I've been working on that on and off for 8 years. So that feels amazing that that's going to come out on June 24th, and it's just like everything's, and the baby's due June 8th.
Oh
so
my
it's
God,
like,
you have so much happening.
right?
It's like a whole new chapter, it's a whole
Right.
new life you have,
Right.
which is
And
gotta feel so good.
Friends are coming out to visit,
Nice.
and just to have family coming out to visit too. And we've also had more family move here, so it's just been great.
Where can people find this book and more information about you and your work? Let them know about your work again. Like what
So-
benefits can they get from that?
Yes. So what I do for work, I have the privilege of helping people release energy that does not serve them anymore. So I'm a past life energy healer. So specifically pain, both chronic physical and emotional pain, as well as anxiety and depression, and stuck energy, just feeling like you cannot move forward. So those are the types of clients that I work with, and all sessions are via Zoom. So you can be anywhere in the world with a great internet connection. And that's so fun, just to get to be able to serve people in different areas. I have clients at this point in about 15 different countries. My website is my full name, which is wendyrosewilliams.com. And I do offer a complimentary group energy healing for people, and you can sign up at no cost via my website. And those are on an ongoing basis. So there's a couple every month. And you can find my books on both Amazon and on Audible, because I also record them as audiobooks.
Sweet. Thank you for having this conversation with me.
Oh, thank you.
Satiated so many other things that I want to know about you from yesterday, which I wish I could do more of this during tours, and I just might now.
Well, thank you. I so appreciate what Tiny Home Tours is doing, because it's really uplifting for people to just see new possibilities and new ways to live. And it doesn't have to be same old that we've outgrown, but we're afraid to make a change because we don't know what that change might look like.
I feel like we're adding certainty
Yes.
to the world.
Yes.
Like, I think we have over 1,000 tours posted now. It's like,
That's incredible.
look at all these people doing it.
That's
and,
incredible.
They're thriving out there.
Exactly.
So, hit the road, buy the tiny. If you're feeling, just like you, if you're feeling that intuition yelling at you, just maybe start following it.
Exactly.
See what happens.
Exactly.
Sweet. Well,
Yes.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for watching, listening, however you consume these. Please give her a big old follow. Hit her up if you're stuck in life or want to know who you were before you were born. How amazing is that?
Yes. Thank
See
you
ya.
for being here. Bye-bye now.